love it. I love it. All right, Rachel. So we want to get back. I know you have a few other things that you haven't covered that we want to go to. So
Yeah.
really, the floor is yours. We also want to encourage people. Feel free to throw something into the Q&A.
Yeah.
Ask questions. Rachel is very selfless with her time, as Howard mentioned. So this is about you guys and helping you in the coming year, learning. We're all still figuring it out, Rachel included. We were talking about where we have our shortcomings again before we started. So ask questions. We are here to give to the community and help learn. So Rachel, I know we kind of left off just in the, you were kind of going through how you guys do your pull the seller report to kind of show the advertising. That's kind of where we left off, but I know there's a lot of other steps involved in what you're doing and how you're winning so many of these listings. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, I think, to kind of be able to bridge the gaps between the last, time we spoke and this one, what we want to cover, there are so many tools available to us in the Ylopo seller suite that, you really have to be able to read the people that you're in front of to know what's important. I think I briefly touched on being able to read the disc profile and mirroring and matching kind of, what kind of information are they craving? What kind of information do they need to make a decision? And what are their concerns, right? Where do their concerns lie? If you know anything about the disc profile, obviously high Ds are typically going to have already researched the majority of their questions. So it's really just about providing value to that person. High I, they want kind of the rainbows and butterflies. They want to know what the process looks like. They want to be able to, feel like they're part of the process as well and have kind of a hand in it. High S, somebody who doesn't like a lot of change, they're likely going to need a little bit more hand holding and a very strategic game plan. So, I talked a little bit about, when I'm prepping listings for the market or discussing with the seller about what I do to prep listings for the market, part of that really is going through with the seller and giving them a physical checklist broken down room by room based on what I think that they should do to highlight each room for their home, so that it shows up better in photos, so that it shows up better in video or any of the things that we do. And with a high C, they want the data. They want to know, what's the price per square foot in my neighborhood? What is the sale price to list price or list to sale price ratios, right? They need to know a lot of that data. So, when you're in that initial conversation, or if you've been nurturing that person, or if you're, on the phone with them before, we talked in the last webinar a lot about, really how to provide value and to not have a mentality of scarcity, really be coming from a place of abundance and saying, look, if you haven't interviewed multiple people, it's really, really important that you do that. You need to know exactly, what you're getting into. I need to be able to show you the things. And I want you to have a relative understanding of what other agents offer in our market. And so
pause right there. I want to pause because we did touch base on that last time and a couple of people I think chimed in. I want to make sure the people this time aren't missing it. You're literally on the listing appointment or when you're talking to these sellers, encouraging them or asking them to interview other people.
Yeah, 100%.
Why? Isn't that crazy?
It is, because what it really does is it shows that, one, you're not desperate for their business, right? It shows that you have an abundant mentality, and it shows that you're really confident. And if you're utilizing the Ylopo Seller Suite to the extent with which it's meant to be used, then you should have every confidence in the world that you're going to be able to knock that listing out of the park and really win them based on the value you're going to be able to bring. So, like I mentioned, we really high level real quick, we talked a lot about the dynamic retargeting and being able to target all the different demographics of people based on the neighborhood, and then being able to convey that to the seller that we're actually able to do that is really, really key. A lot of people think that's really cool. The way that I do that is I say something like, maybe I did this in the last webinar too, but if I've been shopping for, a pair of boots on Amazon or on Nordstrom or on, Zappos.com, all of a sudden, because those companies utilize dynamic retargeting, I am seeing those same boots or similar boots in my Instagram feed, in my Facebook feed. I'm seeing the ads on the side of the, the bar with every Google search that I do. And Ylopo is that same exact technology with houses. So people that have been looking for your type of property, Mr. Seller, with that price point, school district, zip code, any of the above, square footage, size, lot size, your home, because of my technology, is going to show up in their Facebook feed, in their Instagram feed, in the sidebar of all their searches. Like, this is an unparalleled way to be able to get the home in front of actually qualified buyers or buyers who are actively looking. So to be able to convey that to sellers, I think, is a huge part of that value.
Yeah, I mean, the fact is that you're utilizing it, and just the seller report that Rachel held up. We're not going to go into pulling those again, but I believe somebody from the Ylopo team did put the link. It's ylopo.com/media. So you'll see Rachel's webinar from a couple of weeks ago where she goes in how she's actually pulling that, what she's doing, and a lot of her scripting. So I just want to make sure they know where to find that. One other thing too, because I just kind of want to pull out some things to make sure I'm hearing it correctly, just because I'm learning from you as well. When you said you're going through, are you actually giving them a physical checklist, or is it digital? Or are you actually taking stuff that you're handing them as well?
Good question. So the physical checklist, when I go through, this is when, they've agreed to work with me as their agent. So I'm going in and I'm explaining what I do for them. And for a lot of people, because the mentality of a seller, especially first-time home sellers, there is so much to do. And so, they don't even know where to start. It can be very daunting. It can be very, very overwhelming. And our job as agents, a huge part of our value proposition is to be able to come in and relieve that stress from them, right? So that's a very, very simple way to be like, look, so when we decide to work together, Mr. Seller, the next step is for me to come back within the next week, and we're going to go through room by room together. I'm going to provide you a physical checklist of exactly what I think that you should do with every single room, so you can have that posted on your fridge and literally check off those boxes to make sure that you're getting them done. Now, understand that there are only suggestions. It's not necessarily to do every single thing, but those are going to be my suggestions to really maximize and highlight your home.
You know what you said, and I love this. I mean, we've both been doing this for a long time, and I'm sure a lot of people listening. You said something that was kind of like this light bulb going off that I can't believe I don't think I've actually ever heard the term, and I've never thought about it in this light. It's like, we're all very accustomed to a first-time home buyer. And we already know that the way we talk to a first-time home buyer versus someone who's done it several times is completely different, right? How we're probably going to approach it, what we're providing them. And I've literally never heard somebody say first-time seller and processed it in the way that you just said. It was like this whole light bulb. And we have, a handful of things that we hand out and everything, but that sheds a whole different light on, I think, how I would approach somebody who's selling for the first time in that whole appointment. I don't know how I've never thought of that. So I literally love that term, first time seller.
Well, let's be totally honest. As real estate agents, we do this every single day. So when we're talking to clients, it's very typical as real estate agents that we almost assume by osmosis they know what we know, and they know kind of what to do in certain areas. And most of them really don't. So we have to go in normalizing the fact that they don't know what the heck that they're doing right now, and make it okay, right? So one of the things that I ask either, on the phone first thing, or one of the first questions that I ask after kind of the walkthrough and the listing appointment itself is, have you ever sold a home before? And I'm not kidding you, because of the age group with which people are buying homes in the last 10 years, it's a lot of that millennial, like 35 to 45 kind of range. So a lot of the people that I work with are first-time home sellers, and they've never done it before. And so being able to validate them, to find that out, because for them to admit that is a first step in building rapport, right? Because now I've identified a little bit of a fear that they probably have. And it breaks down, a little bit of that ego, like, oh, I don't want to tell them, I don't want to seem like I don't know what I'm doing, but I normalize it. And I say, is this your first home that you've sold before? If they say yes, I'm like, this is so exciting. Like, this is so exciting, you guys. This is an excellent opportunity to be able to walk you through exactly what this takes. And that one, comment, question itself really breaks down a lot of barriers with people who are first-time home sellers.
It sounds simple, but I'm like literally just sitting here reeling, like, I know we still do. And it was up in Boise helping with some listing appointments and all that, because it's just coming into the listing season, getting busy, and, talking to a couple. And yes, we still explained, like, okay, we're going to walk you through, but never really just identifying that exact group like I would a first-time home buyer. I don't know why that hasn't clicked.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
It's a lot of coaching on this side, right? And so to be able to bring the different value pieces from that seller report, from Ylopo, and be able to convey to them exactly how that is different from what most real estate agents do is, I think, a huge key to being able to bring value to that person, that seller. A lot, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, sorry, I just a question. I thought you were pausing there. Jennifer had asked if you could repeat the script. I think she's probably talking about that script that kind of walked through that exciting. I'm guessing, Jennifer, you're asking about her script. It's kind of when you identify them as a first-time seller. And it could have
Oh,
also
sure.
been when you're asking them to interview. I'd kind of love to hear that again, because we don't really have a place to go find the scripts, but I think what you said is really important. I love how you focus that.
Absolutely. Do you want to role play it with me, Gabe? You
Yeah,
want to
let's
be the
let's
seller?
let's
Okay.
play it. I'll be your seller. Let's do the interview one or the other agent one first.
Okay, perfect. So Mr. Cordova, it sounds like, you guys have been kind of talking about selling for a while. Have you interviewed any other agents to possibly work with you to sell your home?
We've thought about it, but we haven't. I didn't know if we really should.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's a super common thing to kind of think that maybe it would be a good idea to get several opinions on this, right? In regards to like a doctor or a surgery or any sort of thing, most people are contractor with your home. Most people get multiple bids, multiple estimates, multiple quotes, and they typically go and find the one with the best value that will end up with the best product, right? Or the best end result. So I always encourage my clients to go and interview at least one or two other agents before I meet with them, so that you can truly understand the scope with which the marketing is available in this market, and what agents can provide to you that I might also be able to provide to you. A little choppy on that one, but that's the idea.
No. And again, the goal is that you're bringing more to the table between the seller report and what you're doing, the experience, all that. You're providing more. And I think one of the key there too is you said you're asking them to do this prior to meeting. So this is really when you're on the phone with them, right? And,
Yes.
and is that strategy, I'm guessing?
Yes, that's 100% strategy. When and you're really comfortable with the tools that you're bringing and the value you're bringing to the table with that appointment, you want the Redfins or other agents in the market who maybe don't have access to this kind of technology to go and explain what they can do. I've walked into literally dozens and dozens of listing appointments over the last 5.5 years, where that person that they interviewed before me literally just brought a couple of comps printed out from the MLS. They didn't have a CMA packet. They didn't have any other marketing other than, I've got great signs, and then I'm going to put a lockbox on your door, and then I'm going to get it in the MLS for you. And to be able to show up with, oh no, we've got this reverse technology, and we've got this, dynamic retargeting, and I have database mining, and I have this, open house tool. So we're able to actually capture people coming in when we host an open house your first weekend that you're on the market. They're like, holy smokes, like I didn't even know this stuff was, even a thing.
I think there's a shift in focus, right? There's not, in some of these markets, that are super busy, it's not even so much, is it going to sell? I'm guessing the focus is you're showing them how you're going to get them more. Correct. More traffic, more activity, right? That's kind of the goal versus they don't really have the concern if it's going to sell.
That's exactly right. I mean, honestly, everywhere in the United States, anybody that I talk to in almost every single market we're in a seller's market, right? Some more than others. Right. And so when we're talking about, in our market in the Pacific Northwest, we have 14 days of inventory. The house is going to sell, right? But it's about who can get the most amount of buyers, who can get the most amount of eyeballs on your listing, and then who can negotiate for the highest number for you, right? Who's willing to work the hardest for you to earn that equity that we're asking you to pay us a piece of. So that's
in terms, right? In terms. Yeah,
right.
The more competition, terms and price, because sometimes it can be a little bit of a scale.
Yes, 100%.
I love that. Well, I know you were using some other tools and stuff because you guys have been building database. A lot of people watching this also have databases, because you guys aren't just going on the listing appointment, and you've got other tools outside the seller report that you're also using to actually identify, right? To kind of win these and show off. Can you kind of talk about some of those?
Yeah. So, I mean, some of the things that we've provided, we're in a very savvy market, and there's a lot of really savvy people all over the US now, right? Because information is so dang available to sellers and to homeowners. It's super, super important that we're able to stay kind of ahead of the curve and continue to bring services and value to those clients. If you're not on Homebot, if you're not on that particular platform that's connected into Ylopo, that is absolutely something that's a huge key for being able to seeing those behavior-based follow-ups, being able to see who's actually continuing to look at their value and follow up with them. We have people, within that tool in and of itself, people can go in and suggest different values if they think their home is worth less or worth more. That's always an excellent conversation piece to call them and be like, okay, I just saw you update your value in this program to $100,000 more than it was. But have you done something to the home? Like, tell me all about it. I want to hear about your home. And it's an excellent opportunity to call and just have a conversation with those people, because most homeowners want to talk about themselves, right? They want to talk about their home and what they've done to it. So Homebot's been a really big tool for that and generating a lot of that interest while seeming natural and providing them value. Outside of that,
one of the ways, and because somebody asked it, is Homebot one of the ways? I mean, again, you guys have been doing this, so past clients, anybody expressing interest. That's one of the tools that you're doing to help identify and capture the sellers, right? Because that was one of the questions, like, how are you even identifying sellers in this market? Because we obviously need more inventory.
Yep, exactly right. So there's a couple of questions about, the value and how are you getting people into Homebot? So we have set up a Zap in our CRM where we're able to tag Homebot on that person's profile, and it automatically pushes them into Homebot. So it's definitely something that you can kind of set up as an automation. And then you should be able to be getting through your CRM the notifications. It will create Y priorities through your CRM once they've touched on or done something or looked at even the report on Homebot.
Yeah, and also real quick, just because I know we got a bunch of existing Ylopo clients on here, so just want to show them really fast. Also, if you're on here and you realize you don't have everybody in Homebot, you guys just go to ylopo.com/homebot. This is if you have multiple, probably like 10, 15 or more, not the one-offs. ylopo.com/homebot. If you just go there, it'll actually give you a template. Just grab this template and fill it out, and then we can mass upload everything into Homebot for you. And then just to piggyback on what Rachel was saying, so we prioritize our follow-up, right? Hand raisers, anybody asking a question. Our number 2 list that we want agents to focus on is who's engaging with Homebot, right? So you can see a lot of these are already closed. There are past clients, but you can look through this list. We have 162 people, and you can see how often we're hitting these, right? It's one of the most active lists that we are hitting, so that we can make sure that we're finding those sellers, because it's not just past clients, but buyers coming in. Because you're sure you're seeing, Sarah mentioned there's no inventory. Sellers aren't sometimes coming onto the websites and getting registered, asking about selling their home, because that's not their fear. Their fear is, where the hell am I going to go, right?
Yeah,
am I going to be homeless?
Right. Yep. That's
Yeah,
exactly right. Yep.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, when it comes to, a couple people are asking, where else are we getting listings? Where else are we getting sellers? So obviously, like seller PPC leads, that was something that we were able to build our database pretty significantly with through Ylopo, getting those people into Homebot and making sure that we're able to start building those relationships. Because like Gabe just said, these people, their fear isn't that their house is going to sell. Their fear is that they're going to be homeless living in a cardboard box because there's nothing to buy, right? Because there's no inventory. And that's okay. Like sometimes, we are going to go through seasons where we don't find, a home for that person. So we have to kind of push the listing as well. But as long as you're nurturing them, making sure that they're keeping up on their value, like they are still going to be your clients, right? It's about their timeline, not ours.
Yeah. Can I put you on the spot? Well, I know I can, because we're here and you're on the spot, but I also know that you've got answers. I would love to hear, there's got to be a common objection, right? Like, we do want to sell, but we don't know where we're going to go and all that. We don't have to necessarily role play, but I just what is some of the advice that you're giving and kind of overcoming that? I don't even want to call it an objection, right? Because that's a fear.
Yeah.
To me, it's not an objection.
It's a very valid fear too. Yeah. So there's a couple of things, we'll discuss their personal situation. So if they're in a financial situation where they can purchase something without selling their property, which is not very many people, I would say it's under 5% of the clients every year, right, are able to do that. Obviously, that's going to be a huge win for them, because they're going to be able to go out and be relatively competitive buyers without having the contingency of selling their home. So that's number 1, we qualify them financially. Number 2, in our market, we're allowed to do up to a 60-day rent back. So this is something that we did probably a dozen times in 2021 at least, where we would literally go and we would put their home on the market, we'd get it all ready, go through the entire process, put their home on the market. And then before we accepted an offer, we negotiated a longer closing, like a 45-day closing. And then we negotiated 2 30-day rent back options after that 45-day closing. So what we're then able to do in Washington State, we like to wait until we're through the appraisal to make sure that we're getting the value and that home is going to be able to close. Once that appraisal's in, we're at value, that's negotiated, and now we're counting down to the closing in another 2 or 3 weeks, we go hit the market really hard. So we've had clients literally, living in the home, renting the home that they just sold for that 30 or 45 days, and then purchasing another home super as quick of an escrow as possible, and then negotiating that transfer over. So that's another way to do it. That, of course, has risks, which I explained to the client, like if nothing comes on, that is perfect. Our job isn't just to shove you into a home. Our job is to make sure you love the home that you're moving into. So I always talk about a plan B and say, you know, ideally, we don't want you to move twice. Ideally, we don't want you to have to move all of your stuff out here, put it in storage and live with mom and dad for a couple months and then move again. But we had a couple clients that said, you know what, we're willing to do that because we want to wait for the perfect home. But now they're very, very strong buyers because they've got cash from all the equity that they've sold, right?
Contingency, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I love that. I think where that goes back to what you were saying earlier, I just want people to really understand this. And, you know, because people are like, well, you know, getting people in the door isn't an issue. But what you were saying earlier and why you're encouraging them is when you're able to prove that you can get more eyes, more people through the door, now that's allowing you to ask not just for the price. We know it's going to sell. We know we're probably going to get high, but sometimes those terms are so important for like that rent back and everything. And that's the value. Because somebody's like, well, what's the value? I think that's, you know, that's a perfect example of going back to why you're doing it the way you're doing it.
Yes, that's exactly right. You know, and in these, you know, low inventory markets, buyers are, you know, giving everything but their, you know, firstborn sometimes to get into these homes, waiving contingencies and, you know, doing all of these crazy things in the contract that in a normal market we would not see, you know, and we wouldn't typically advise to people to do. But that, you know, the market is what it is, and housing is always going to be a super top priority to people. So it's something that we kind of work around and work in the market that we're in. So when it comes to, you know, multiple offers on the table, or, you know, like we had 7 offers in 24 hours on this home this week, you know, it came down to, yes, price, but it also came down to terms. Who can close in the amount of time that works for these sellers? What kind of rent back can they give for free? You know, what kind of contingencies are they going to waive? Like there's a lot of power as a listing agent in this market.
Yeah, I'm going to add one to that. It has nothing to do with listing, but it's maybe winning one. This weekend, it was 20 some offers on something. Seller went with terms because of the rent back. Again, just didn't want to be homeless. Was not the most expensive, or the highest price, even though it was offering rent back. But honestly, because the agent was so good at communicating with Tom and I through the process and just on some questions and cleaning up stuff. And when we communicated back to the seller, that had so much to do with it. So it was the terms, it was all that, but also communication. So all you buyers agents out there, you know, Rachel, I'm sure, myself, all us, you know, communication and that gut feeling you get and that rapport with an agent is really key. So, all right. And I'm going to come back to some of the questions about PPC and lead gen towards the end, guys. I don't want to get Rachel, I want to get her back on track. You were starting to talk about, I think, like the reverse prospecting, as well as how you guys are using that or showing it.
Yeah, so there's a tool that you're able to use, you know, along with doing the database mining, which I talked about in the first webinar, right? Where this is kind of a very client-friendly version where you're able to pull, you know, how many people from your database are looking for the parameters of this particular listing of the home that you're at, and then it pulls the amount of people in your database that are actually have a saved search set up that would match that criteria. That's super powerful on the client side. What we're also able to do is do a reverse lookup and pull a CSV file from the database to pull those same people. And what you're able to do then with that CSV file is we take it and we have our marketing director upload it into our Facebook ads manager. So then we're then able to specifically target the people that literally have a search set up for the parameters with which that seller is selling. So that is an incredibly powerful tool. And it's not just the Diva ads or the, you know, the listing rockets that are targeting these people on the back end of this Ylopo seller suite. You can control, you know, the actual content by doing that Facebook ads manager and running a campaign to just that list. That's a huge tool. And
You're literally going in. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, a little birdie told me before this that it's possible that Ylopo may be coming up with like a 2 or 3 click version of this, but I'll let them roll that out when.
Yeah. We'll go back there. So what I want to hit on, though, because again, I want to make sure people are kind of connecting the dots. So there's multiple benefits to this. So not only are you going in to be able to show the seller what's going on, or show yourself, or identify in your database who may be a good fit for this. Obviously, you're able to reach out to them in mass. And by doing so and reaching out to these people, again, you're getting in front of people who we're thinking 25, 30% are also sellers. You're reaching out to them with a different message. They're seeing what you're doing with the listing. So you guys have got to be finding sellers doing this as well.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, people talk, you know, and when it comes to going to one home in a neighborhood, and now you've explained exactly how you can target people. You know, with the heat map, you're able to literally target neighborhoods and be able to see the things in that neighborhood. They're going to talk to their neighbors, and they're going to talk about the different tools that you're able to bring to the table. One thing that we are doing as well, we can get into when we talk, maybe when the listing is active, but to get sellers is literally, you guys, good old fashioned door knocking. People got away from it over the last 2 years. And I tell you, I just did a training with the showing partners on our team yesterday about open houses and the right way and the right message to bring to the neighbors to actually be doing listing mining in specific neighborhoods. You have an incredible tool belt that you just need to go slap on and start like knocking on those doors and doing the work, because people want to sell, but like Gabe said, there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of, you know, trepidation. There's a lot of uncertainty. So to be able to go create authority in this space and be the person who says, look, I just did this 2 doors down with your neighbor. I got them, you know, 15% or 10% over list price with the tools that we're able to utilize. And now they can move on to their next thing. Let me just stop by again, and we can create a customized game plan just for you guys. So it's going to work for your family.
Yep, I love it. So I'm going to back up a tiny, because I want to go into that deeper, so don't let me forget. But somebody was asking how to get that CSV file, so I'm just going to show them really quick.
Yeah.
So what you guys want to do is when you go into your mission control, so it's going to need to be the team lead. So if you're an agent on the team watching this, your team lead's going to need to pull this. Or if you're a team lead, go in. You're going to want to go to your marketing dashboard. And if you scroll down just a little bit, the seller report is what Rachel showed last week. That's what she's held up a couple times. So again, you can go to ylopo.com/media to get the webinar from a few weeks ago, and she'll show you how she's presenting that and everything. But right next to it is the reverse lookup. All right, so you're going to want to put in the address of the street that you're doing. So it'll autofill in, put in just the price. And I bracket this. I'd love to know what you do, but I bracket it. So I know if I'm going to list it at 400, I'm going to probably bracket it by 100,000 on each side. I don't know what you guys are doing.
Yep.
So let's do 5. All right, and this is just some property description. So it's getting an idea what people are looking for to match them. And then I do the same thing. I'm going to bracket it by on both ends here, probably. That one I think is about 2,000 square feet. And all you do is literally just hit generate report. So this is going to download, it's going to go in and find all of those people, download it into a CSV. Oh, threw it over in the wrong monitor. It's going to download it. So now you can take this and upload it into your CRM, add a tag to it, do whatever you want, go into a MailChimp or wherever you want, whatever you want to do with it. You have it at that point. We go into our, because those are people that are on our website that we've already, that have already opted in and we've been contacting. We actually go in and just mail them through our CRM just because it's a known list. What are you got when you have that? What are you doing with it once you get it?
Both. So we have a mass emailing campaign, technology that we utilize as well. So we'll upload that there and do kind of an intro email, with the details of the home, with the link to, a site with the home. And then we'll also go to the back end of our Facebook ads manager for our team business page. And you can upload that CSV, literally creating a specific, very specific and targeted audience for that home. So you can go upload it into that Facebook ads manager. What we then do is go back.
Okay, I'm going to say time out 1 second, just because this is really, 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 really good. And everybody that's multitasking, stop. And I'm going to rewind Rachel a second, because this is in addition to your listing rockets or whatever you're doing is what I just heard. So, all right, come back and say that again. So when you grab this list with the Facebook.
Okay, so we grab this list, we take this list, we upload this list into the Facebook ads manager on the back end of our business page. So for ours, it's the Novak team business page on Facebook. We upload it into the Facebook ads manager. Now we have a specific and customized audience for the demographic of that exact home. So we will then go back to the Ylopo Stars dashboard and we will download one of the Diva videos that's created. And we will literally take that video and utilize it into that Facebook ads campaign toward this targeted list and create some of our own copy that's eye-grabbing and catching. And then you've got this little 15-second blip it going over and over to this specifically targeted campaign.
You're combining them.
Yes.
I love that. I love that. I think that's really, oh, Kiwi jumped on. He's gonna give us a tidbit.
I thought, yeah, that's brilliant. I had a thought. I don't know if you're doing this already, but make sure you also do what's called a lookalike audience for the list that you update. Because then it's good. Facebook's going to then go out and find out everyone who's similar to the people that you're targeting and go after them as well. So yeah, that's really cool.
You're opening up rabbit holes now, because now people are like, well, how much do I spend? And what do I do? How do I cap it? Like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, well, they're going to be pretty small audiences, right? So they're not going to be massive. So the budget will be fairly conservative as well. I mean, you're probably only looking at around $100. I mean, just depends on the size of the audience and the market you're in.
You guys get a report on, so again, I'm just being selfish and asking my own questions. You get a report on those as well, so you can see clicks or views and all that, I'm assuming?
Oh yeah, that's all going to be on the back end dashboard. So we're able to track exactly how many clicks, how many views, how many actual, like, how many people clicked through and actually stayed, you know, on the page and saw it. So yeah, we can definitely track all that.
I love it. And now you're pairing that. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, that's all, like, obviously super useful information to be able to show the client, right?
Yeah, that's the whole thing, right? I mean, we love the market we're in right now for, well, love-hate relationship with the market, but we're not always. And let's be honest, there are some listings out there that just aren't selling. We you know, there's some that aren't. And to be able, anytime you can, I firmly believe, anytime you can literally print, whether it's to PDF or paper, and show them clicks, show them views, show them anything, you know, to me, sellers really need to physically see or almost touch what you're doing to see value. Yep. Right. And now you're backing up what you're saying, whether it's a price reduction or whatever it is, or you know what, or let's take it back to today's market. Well, if we wait one more week, can we get even more? Like now we can kind of see where now the interest has kind of died off. We can see the you know, the top of the hill where we plateaued.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
This is so good, Rachel. You're really going deep, and as promised, most of us are quiet, so you're able to.
That's right to me.
I just love the picture that I can see of you, Bear.
Now, I'm getting some messages. And so for those of you that like, hey, what's a Facebook audience? What's a manager? Before you freak out, if you're not able to go to the level that Rachel's going as far as exporting your list and uploading it into a Facebook audience, Ylopo does leverage the Facebook algorithm. Yes. So they're actually gonna, if you can't do this targeting on your own, you can actually upload, you know, or basically run a Diva listing rocket for $65, and then Facebook's going to find people that want to see the video. Yep. Obviously, having a targeted list is always the ideal, but I just know that for those of you that just freaked out, it's okay. You can still get the job done. All right, I'm going to shut my mouth again.
No, you're good. And what I want to point out is you're doing both though, right, Rachel? You're actually running both.
Yeah. So Barry, thank you for bringing that up, because I honestly don't know if people are going in and utilizing the listing rockets as much as they should be. The listing rockets has been a huge, huge, huge part of our listing marketing for all of the years, all 3 or 4 or 5 years that we've been doing this. And, you know, my team is now trained on going in and setting the listing rocket and checking it every 24 to 48 hours in our market, making sure that it's still running, making sure that, you know, it's still hitting, you know, a good amount of audience, and then updating it as necessary, because there's so many different, like you see the video ad type here, you've got the open house that it's currently set on, but you've also got right there, the video ad type, Gabe, right above that.
Sorry.
You've got active listing, you've got, I mean, you look at all these different options, and every single one of these is a little bit different and going to appeal to a different audience. So going in and being able to do this, you know, making sure that you're checking it every, you know, we do 48 hours usually. You've got the budget, you've got the runtime. We almost, because of our days on market, we typically pack in that $65 for the maximum amount of exposure into like a 7 to 10 day period. So
that's key. I just learned about that. I've been realtor in residence for a year. What you're talking about is this time frame right here, right?
Yes. Yep.
I didn't know that. So what she's saying, I just want to break this down, is so by default, it does a month. So you're spreading this budget out. Well, a lot of us are in a market where it's not sitting for a month. Right. So you can shorten this time frame. So you're we're reaching more people, getting in front of more people in a shorter time frame. So it's really going to get those numbers faster. Because I kept thinking, wow, I thought we'd hit a lot more people. Well, my listing was going pending, you know, within a few days or a week, well, a few days, and it wasn't going. So that's key. You're doing 48. What did you say you're doing here?
So for that one, we'll do typically 7 to 10 days, depending on if we're doing an offer review date or not. Because typically if in our market, we have an average days on market of 12 days. So I try to keep that budget within the scope of which the home will likely be active on the market. What they do for the 48 hours is they go in and check and make sure the engagement is high. And if they need to update that diva ad, so they'll move it from a just listed to an open house if we're moving into the weekend, right? So they'll do that on like a Thursday night or Friday morning. So they'll update it based on, you know, the target audience that we're trying to hit that day or that 48-hour period.
Yeah, and you guys saw how easy that was. Literally all I did was paste in an MLS number. It pulled the photos from MLS, it pulled the details, and now it's just basically pick an ad, you know, whose information do you want displayed and how long do you want it to run? I mean, it's literally takes less than a minute to create that ad if you have the MLS number handy. Good.
So yeah, just real quick on this, a couple of things people may not be aware. The budget is not pulled from your current marketing media budget. It's a separate budget. So even if you're on a tech package with us or whatever package you are on, you're not limited here by your Diva rockets and what you can spend. If, for example, you did put 2 weeks or 3 weeks and you went off market and you stopped it, you get refunded that extra money. The other thing is, at a bare minimum, I would highly recommend, and this is what the top teams are doing, at least doing this for your just solds. Every property that's just sold, there's no better social proof or branding in the world that's telling every neighbor every homeowner in the neighborhood that you sold another property. You know, it's like bench ads, but for pennies on the dollar. And it's real properties that you're selling, your brand, your company, targeting all the right people with just a couple of clicks.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's so fast and easy. Yeah, and then just to add a little color to that. So, and this is going to be based on markets, so don't yell at me if it's not your market, but both Colorado, Idaho, for Denver and Boise, the MLS doesn't syndicate out the coming soon. We have a coming soon in MLS, but it doesn't push it to third-party sites. But you can even go into Ylopo and do a custom ad during that coming soon time. So they'll create one because you won't have an MLS number to pull those. So it's another great way to start. If you have, I think in Colorado, we have a week, and Idaho and Boise, we have 2 weeks. Do it within your timeframes as legal, but you can actually do a custom ad if it doesn't have an MLS number where they can run that coming soon prior to going. So we throw the coming soon, then when it's live, and then the just sold. So we want to hit them. It's like, oh my gosh, it was coming. Wow, now it got listed. Now it got sold. Again, those of you looking for more sellers, that's sending a message, right? That's that branding.
Yep, absolutely. And to piggyback on that, this page in the seller report that I physically print off, just to tie it all back together here, it literally explains what it does. It gives an example of a cell phone with the picture and what the ad will look like, because you know, I don't know the exact number or percentage, but I would say in the very high 80s or 90% of people are looking at homes on the apps on their phone, right? Or they're looking at it scrolling through Facebook, or they're scrolling through Instagram. And this is what they're going to see from the Ylopo ad, the listing rocket here. So you're able to literally tell people, look, like, not only do I put it in the MLS, not only does it go on all these syndicated websites, of course, but now I can literally change the ad based on the lifestyle or the life cycle of this ad, whether it's just listed, whether we do an open house or not, if we have to do price adjustment, which in some markets you do, in some markets we don't. But there's all these different options, and you can tell the person, I'm going to be continually pushing this ad out to the people that it resonates with and to the demographics that are looking for it based on the life cycle of your listing. And to be able to have a fresh audience for every single lifestyle, or I guess life cycle of it, is super, super powerful. So just another piece of that seller report that you're really able to dive into and let that person know you're going to be providing value far past just the initial marketing blast of when you hit the market, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much. I mean, there's just so much to keep going deep in there. And somebody asked, I scrolled past it, but yeah, I would check with your broker in your market. But I don't believe most people have a time frame in which they can say that they just sold something. In fact, I just saw something on Facebook, and somebody kind of did a recap. You know, our 2021, it was sold. I thought it was a really kind of cool ad that they did, which I'm going to rip off and duplicate to kind of just show what's going on. I'm sure they're trying to target a certain audience or neighborhood or something, but yeah, go back and leverage those solds as well.
Yep.
So, okay, so we talked about reverse lookup, what you guys are doing with it. Somebody did ask if you'd share what mail service you guys are using for mass email like when you get that list or upload it, or is it different ones or?
You know what? We literally, our marketing director just changed it. I don't know the name of the brand new one. Anything, relatively cheap, like even a MailChimp totally works for that type of thing. Being able to mass upload all the information to those people and be able to, email them out a customized thing. It's really easy to, build the email itself as well. So plug and go things. The point is just exposure, right? So it doesn't matter what mail service you use. I think, yeah,
There's a bunch, yeah.
yeah, there's so many. Exactly.
Yep. And we like I said, if it's a known audience for us, and again, you're doing a reverse lookup. What I love about this is you should only be hitting a smaller group of people. It's not your entire database. I think
Right.
emailing your entire database every listing to me, I don't think is a good idea because it's not important to them. It's not relevant to their area or price or whatever. So the fact that Rachel is going in and doing that reverse lookup, it's actually tying it to the activity of the person, so it's relevant to them.
Yep.
So you can do it outside, you can do it inside your CRM. Make sure you're tracking it though, who's opening it, who's not, and all that is really important. So
Yeah, exactly right.
you started talking about the class you're teaching door knocking. I kind of cut you off because I wanted to go back and answer a question. And I'm also scrolling back. Somebody said they also do this and they've estimated it between $1,000 to $10,000 an hour every time they door knock.
Wow.
So I think this was kind of leading up what you're doing to prep for maybe an open house or something like that. So I wanted to go back and let you kind of finish that train of thought on the door knocking and what you're teaching.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something that we, this is again part of the value that I bring to sellers in a listing appointment. So when I'm talking to the sellers about, all the things that we do, we have all this technology. Well, there's still a lot of people in our market who own homes who aren't maybe even on Facebook, or maybe they don't care as much about the technology, or maybe it goes way over their head. And no matter how many times you try to explain it, they're just kind of look at you like, okay, I don't know what you mean. So it's important to be relevant in so many ways. And that comes down to mirroring and matching and knowing your audience. But what I can explain to sellers in regards to how we utilize that first weekend on the market, in our market at least, is we do, big open houses. We only do 2-hour windows for the open houses because we want to pack as many people into as short amount of time as possible. And we want to make sure there's plenty of time outside of those for agents to come in for private showings. The world has changed, of course, as we all know. And in the last 2 years, more private showings have taken precedent over open houses, but open houses certainly are not dead. So to be able to explain to the seller, look, this is the process our team utilizes to get more exposure for your home. And little do they know, of course, that it's also more exposure for you as the agent and possibly a listing, data mining of just incredible amounts. Like you said, $1,000 an hour potentially. So what we do is we print out a map of the neighborhood. We pull comps on the MLS from that neighborhood to make sure that we're not necessarily door knocking people who have just bought in the last 90 days to 6 months, because likely they won't be looking to sell, right? And we're going to be very specific and very focused with our time. We typically like to do it on a Friday afternoon between 4 and 6. You don't want to do it after dark because people don't like to answer their doors after dark. But you go in and we print off little invitations, and they will have a picture of the house that we have for sale down the street, as well as the specs of the house. We will go and literally knock on their door and say, hey, I'm Rachel from the Novak real estate team. We actually just listed your neighbor's house. I'm sure you saw the sign. I'm sure you saw the contractors coming in and out. But I wanted to invite you and your family to come visit me at the open house this Saturday between 12 and 2. And typically they'd be like, you're what? Like, what are you doing? And I say, I'm inviting you. I want to come see you guys. I'm sure you guys have been curious about what's been going on inside the home. I'm sure you're curious about what it looks like now. So I'd love you guys to come visit me at the open house. I'll be there from this time to this time. And either they say, oh, okay, yeah, we've been watching that, or, oh, but maybe we've been thinking of selling, and maybe nothing. But when I'm pitching this to a seller, when I'm talking to that actual seller before we hit the market, when I'm going around, or my team is going around and inviting the entire neighborhood to your open house, this can be really daunting and really scary for the seller, but this is how I explain it, okay? Bear with me here. I know this is a lot of talk. When we can invite an additional 2 dozen people or more into your home during an open house, buyers, legitimate buyers coming into that open house do not know that those neighbors are just neighbors. They just see bodies and competition. So even in this already uber competitive market for buyers, it's going to create a significantly higher level of urgency for those buyers because they're seeing all this traffic coming through the open house, right? So as a seller, you want those bodies and those eyeballs coming in. even if maybe they're not looking to buy that house, but for you, you know, maybe they're looking to sell theirs and they're comparing and contrasting how you set up this listing. But the buyers coming into the open house, of course, see these people and it creates that level of urgency that they obviously need to get an offer in, because look at all these people here at this open house. So it's a significant way to show your seller that I'm not just going to be doing all this tech. I'm not just going to be doing, home editing walkthroughs and helping you through the process, but I am going to physically go and invite people to these events to make sure that we're creating as much urgency as we possibly can in this market. Make
Love
sense?
it. Oh, I love it. I love it. No, I love that. No, and I want to make sure we're leaving time. So you're inviting them to it. And I also want to talk about open house. So you guys are doing open houses when you can, if it's not already gone, picking up sell. Any advice on that? And I do want to get to some of these questions. So don't give up on us, guys. We're going to get to you. Any advice on the open house or anything like that?
Absolutely. Always. I 100% of the time have a Bluetooth speaker with like fun, energetic music playing. Don't sit down, stay on your feet. When people are coming in, they want to feel the energy, and you are the one creating the energy in that space. Because as we all know, buyers are going to purchase a property based on emotion and how the home makes them feel. So if you're sitting on the couch watching a football game from 12 to 2 on a Sunday afternoon, and you say, oh yeah, come on in, help yourself around, let me know if you have any questions, like 90% of open houses that I've been to do, you're not doing yourself or your sellers any favors. Greet them, ask them how they heard about it if you don't recognize them from door knocking. And then of course we can move into, if you want, the Ylopo open house tool, right? Because obviously the goal is with people coming in, you want to be able to capture their information and follow up with them, get feedback for your seller, as well as maybe getting a client. So use it.
I'll go ahead and show it. And I want to back up on what you just said though, too. So by actually being on your game, on your feet and asking, you also need to realize, again, you did door knocking. And even if you didn't, you probably have neighbors coming through. You may be on a job interview and you have no idea, right? So everything that you're saying and talking, you could be on a job interview. So I love that you brought up the open house tool. I'm going to show it real quick. And then we'll get back to some Q&A here. So guys, when you're doing this, we want to make sure you can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Perfect. Zoom is in the way. All right. So all you need to do is go to this is your branded site, folks. You're going to go to your branded site and you're just going to go /open-house. Everybody has access to this. You do not pay extra for this. Every agent, every person that has a login into Stars or on the website has access to this. Again, the team has just updated this. So if you've not seen this recently, I want you to look at what we're doing or what they've done. All you do is just paste in the number of the MLS number of the home you're going to do. Who is the agent that's going to be doing the open house, and just hit create. All right. So all it's going to do, let's see, come on, make sure I put in an active. Hold on. Did I freeze? Oh, there we go. All right. It's going to automatically, again, pull all the photos. It's going to pull some details. I'm going to expand it into full screen. You can see the full screen now, I hope. It's going to scroll through. So what's great about this is automatically it's going to throw a QR code on here, right? So if you don't want to have to ask for Wi-Fi codes or have an extra machine or an iPad or people touching your stuff, you don't want them. What's fantastic about this, and this goes to, I think, what Rachel was saying, and I'll share kind of our script and then you can share what you're saying. But as people are coming up, I've got this either on an iPad, or I'll show you, we've started putting on flyers. I'll show you what that looks like. But when they're coming up, I'll just ask, because most people come without an agent, right? So if Rachel and Mike are walking up, and I can clearly see they probably don't have an agent, or I even want to qualify if they do. Hi, welcome, guys, come on in. And by chance, are one of you the agent, or do you have your agent with you? Most of the time they're going to say no. Perfect. Hey, the sellers have asked anybody that's not with their agent, if you go ahead and just scan this QR code, it's just going to ask a couple questions. They just want to know who's been through the home. And in addition, I couldn't put all the photos on the iPad and all the information on the flyer and all that. So it's automatically going to send you all of that. So you have all the information about this home at your fingertips on your phone as you're walking through.
Perfect.
That's it, right? And the sellers have requested. So it's really easy. If you want them to sign in, they don't want to use their phone, you just at a click of a button on the iPad or anything, they can fill out this form. You can customize these questions. As soon as they hit submit here, or when they fill it out on their phone, they're going to instantly be sent into Ylopo. They're going to instantly be sent that listing. They're going to instantly put on a dynamic listing alert. So it's sending homes just like that in that neighborhood to them. It's also pushing it to your CRM. So you've captured everything. You didn't have to do a darn thing. One thing we've done, I'm going to show one more thing, and I'm going to shut up, is we've actually started also adding that same, when we create that, we just grabbed a screenshot of the QR code. We're throwing it on the flyer as well, because not every agent has the iPad with them, or there's not Wi-Fi or whatever. That way we can hand them the flyer and just like, hey, if you go ahead and scan this, it has the additional information, the additional photos, same script really, but instead of having them use the iPad or laptop, we're just taking that QR code from the open house page and putting it on the flyer. You're capturing everybody as they're coming in.
Super, super smart. And Kim Potter posted in the chat here on the iPad Pro. So that's exactly what we do. We bought a stand on Amazon, like a steel stand that has a little lock on the side. We, get it up on the iPad Pro. If you have data on it, that's helpful. Otherwise, we can run it off your hotspot, or if the seller has Wi-Fi, of course, use that. Slide that iPad Pro in and literally put it right in the front door with the hand sanitizer if you need it right next to it. And I almost used almost identical script as you gave. It's super, super smart to be able to say, look, there's a ton of information that I just simply can't convey in one little screen. So there's going to be a lot of things that you're going to want to know. Go ahead and sign in here if you want the rest of that information. Also, it's really helpful for the sellers to know how many people came through. So it's good to have a digital diary to share with them. That's usually what I say.
Yep. I love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. All right. I want to get some of the other questions. So I know that because there were some really good ones and I moved it. They don't, anonymous asked, what do you provide prior to the listing appointment? Is there any pre-listing info, materials, or things that you send out?
Good question. And no, I don't. A lot of people will try to kind of corner you into getting information over the phone, like, oh, can you send me your commission structure? Or, oh, can you send me, your marketing plan? And to be honest with you, I don't do that, especially if I'm encouraging that person to go interview two other agents before I get there. I don't want them to have that leverage that they probably don't understand yet because I haven't explained it. So I really do nothing other than have a calendar confirmation with their correct information on there. I've qualified them and built rapport, and then I do a check-in the day before to make sure that we're still on for that appointment. So I don't provide them any physical material other than a calendar confirmation in their email.
Love it. We're almost identical too. We are starting to send a video text just so you know what I look like. And thanks again for your time to kind of make it a little bit more personal. George asked, going back to when you were talking about Homebot and reaching out to people who are engaging, kind of like I think you gave a sample script there. He's like, are you not disguising the fact that you know that they're looking, or what are you saying to these people when they're engaging with that Homebot?
Really, really good question, George, because honestly, it can be super creepy with all these wide priorities and the ability for us to see what they're looking at very specifically. But when people are engaging with Homebot, I literally say, hey, I saw that you utilized the tool that I had sent in regards to keeping track of your online home value. What kind of questions do you have about it? Or if sometimes they'll literally, they can update the value or send you like, hey, I'm curious about this. And you're literally calling to respond to that question for them. So I keep it general. I don't use the words like Ylopo. I don't use the words Homebot with the client facing side, but I talk a lot about how it's my tool or my team's tool that you are able to utilize. What kind of questions do you have about it?
I agree with that. All of ours is very similar. We don't talk anything about selling either, because I think that's very personal. They haven't said they're selling.
Yep.
But if I'm calling up Rachel, it's like, hey, Rachel, Gabe here, Core Group EXP. Hey, I saw that you're using our online equity tool, and I just wanted to reach out because sometimes those values are way off and too low in a market like this. I just want to see if I can help add some clarity or answer any questions you may have.
Love that, Gabe.
I just hit it head on that it's probably too low. I think Barry does something very similar, and that's okay because I want them to need me to justify what's going on or educate them.
Yep.
So very similar. But I hit it right on that they're using our online equity tool, but I don't say Homebot. I don't even say home valuation. I'm a fan of equity. I don't know why. It feels like something I earned.
Yeah.
Going through questions here. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm looking for some of these I think we hit. How long are typically your listing appointments? Do you try to keep them in a certain time frame?
Absolutely. Yeah. Depending on the person, of course. So I've done a 45-minute listing appointment. That's kind of my sweet spot for somebody who's a really high D or somebody who kind of already has a lot of the answers that they want. And I've also spent 90 minutes to 2 hours with people if they're a super high C or a high S and they just have a slew of questions and they whip out their spiral notebook of all the concerns that they have about the process. So I would say anywhere literally between 45 and 90 minutes. Past that, and you start kind of being like, it seems like there's a lot of questions here. I think it would be really smart if I came back when I come to do the home editing walkthrough and we can discuss those further.
Yeah, after 90 minutes, I'd say we're dating. We're not on a listing
Yeah,
appointment.
100%. This is not even, we're way past speed dating at this point, right? Now we're getting to know each other.
Yeah. There were a bunch of them coming in on some of the lead gen and stuff like that. One thing and I'm sure Barry will have something to add to this as well. Guys, don't think just don't get in that tunnel vision of seller lead, seller lead, seller lead, seller lead gen, right? There are so many sellers that are registering as buyers right now. One of the things I've loved that Ylopo's done, I don't know if it's released in your market yet, Rachel, but the dynamic PPC ads that they're asking way more questions, and they're identifying a lot of them if they have homes to sell or not. So I would really start structuring your conversations you're having with these people, not buyers, not sellers, they're people, having conversations with them and just asking those questions to get to their truth, and it's going to come up. But you have a large amount of sellers in your database and those buyer leads right now.
Right.
So I'd really kind of shift the mindset on, am I asking the right questions to identify that?
Yep. And let's be totally honest, like if that person has come onto your website and they have opted in as a buyer, because like sellers, they know the house is going to sell, but they don't really want to think about getting their house ready. They want to see what's possible first, right? They want to dream first. That's the fun part. So they come in as a buyer, and that's great. If you get them on the phone or whether you don't, part of our SOP on the team, that's standard operating procedure, is to look up their name in a Realist app on the back end of our MLS and see if there's an address associated with that name. If there is, 9 times out of 10, that is that person, and we will enter their address into their profile in our CRM and then kick them into Homebot. So now we've got an extra set of emails coming in regards to their home value.
Yeah, and somebody just asked about that. Depending on your CRM and how it's set up, when people are in there and how it comes back into your CRM, you might need to zap it, or it might be completely integrated.
Yeah.
Somebody asked if I'm using Follow Up Boss, and again, just use the CRM that you're using, but get the most out of it. They come in automatically. Once they're in Homebot, it automatically will come in all the activity, and I can link back out to it. But you can set it up so that you can work that. But the key is, like Rachel said, getting everybody in there. That's your past clients. That's any buyers that you find out that they have an address to, any of that. Ylopo's actually made it really cool too, to where if you don't have the whole address for some reason, you at least have the zip code, you can put that in. They're not getting the Homebot report, but they're getting what Ylopo calls a seller experience. And it'll keep it in front of them until you can obtain that address and then get them on the full thing. So even if you have at least that zip code where they are, you can get some sort of seller messaging going out to them.
Love it.
All right. I know we are a few minutes over, and I want to respect your calendar.
And, I would say, Gabe, one of the things, Rachel, that I'm getting out of this that I hope everybody is picking up is that the ability to take what you have and expand upon it.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of just being satisfied with, oh, yay, I got a listing appointment, I won the listing, and that being kind of it, really what I'm hearing is the listings are the beginning for you, and then you're utilizing the tools available to you to create more opportunities out of it. Yeah. And so for everybody that's on this webinar, I really want you to really drill that.
Yeah. Yep. That's exactly right. I
mean,
mean,
oh, go ahead, Rachel, sorry.
I was just going to say, when you are able to focus on, creating an experience and providing value for those sellers, and then they become clients, now you have an asset of creating significantly more lead generation, exactly what Barry was just saying. So utilizing and leveraging all of the tools available to us to be able to get more listings off of that listing, in regards to all the things we talked about, as well as getting more buyers who may also be sellers. So not being closed off, and like you kind of experienced, Gabe, like not being closed off to saying, oh, these people are buyers, or these people are sellers, or these people are first-time home buyers, or these people are first-time home sellers. Like, these are people, right? And let's just find out what their needs are. We have to keep that mentality.
I love that. And I know we always like wrapping up with takeaways. I'm going to go with my big takeaway, and it may sound simple, but man, it's literally just going around and around in my head. And it's that first-time home seller. I don't know why that just really resonated with me in some of our messaging and probably the lack of questions, but I love that. To me, I treat first-time home buyers so different than regular home buyers in our messaging and our approach. And we are not doing that with sellers. So that's really a big takeaway that I appreciate that you shared, because that just really hit me.
Awesome. Well, thank you then. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. All right, guys. So this will be uploaded to ylopo.com/media. I usually give us a Kiwi a day or two to get that converted. I believe it was also pushed over live into the Ylopo Success community. So it should be on Facebook. Rachel, I know you're getting way up to your leadership retreat. Thank you. Thank you. You blessed us with another hour of nonstop nuggets. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I really enjoyed listening. You guys are crushing it. Really awesome to hear. And Gabe, I was worried because I wasn't sure how you were going to do this with interviewing somebody with better hair than you, but I thought you did a really good job with it, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I did feel inferior the entire time.
Oh my goodness. I may have the hair, but you've got the teeth, my friend. My goodness. Gorgeous, gorgeous teeth.
All right, we'll combine. So awesome. Thank you so much. Be careful out there. Thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks, Barry.
Thank you so much, you guys. Yep. Take care.
Bye-bye.